Vous avez fermé ça tout pour sauver Raphaël.
Bonjour. Comment?
J'ai une question par rapport au bilan. Pourquoi on doit arrêter en fait de travailler avec les
Qui ça?
If we leave, we join again.
No, like.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, we can hear, but we are trying to log in the camera, but we can't find it. But can you hear us?
The camera will turn on automatically once the live stream starts.
The Abdul camera is not
Okay.
on.
Cool. Yeah, I can hear you very well. Do you hear me? But they said the camera will.
Wait, it's not supported in your browser yet. Download. Wait, click on download Teams.
One question for me: do you see the poster of the event on this moment?
They're talking to you.
You can see the poster. The poster will be the camera in the mobile.
Put headphone I can use.
It's a
That's so kind.
I'll ask Daniel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? ¿Me sentite? Sí? Okay.
Yes.
I think we can start now. Thank you all for coming today. I'll begin by briefly introducing the moderator. His name is Georgis Tsagis. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. And he was my tutor for the thematic seminar on sovereignty, borders, and refugees. So I thought it would fit for him to be the moderator for this event. Yeah?
Lots of thanks, Marta. Welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here. You could make it. It's a very dense and exciting event. And lots of congratulations to Marta for putting it together. So without further ado, jump into the presentations. And first in our lineup is Davida Pinata, who is one of the authors of Humanità ininterrotta, Uninterrupted Humanity, a book which unfolds the various dimensions of the Balkan route. And the book is also the source from which the photographs of the exhibition organized in tandem with this day come from. So the floor goes to David.
Hi, I couldn't hear you last words, but if you can hear me now.
We can hear you all right, yes. Can you hear us?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so thank you so much. I'm really happy of being here with you. And I also want to thank Marta on behalf of ICCS. We are really glad that The photos of our exposition are now exposed in Leiden University. And I also want to thank the group of students of Amnesty International and the Global Human Rights Defense Organization that helped to organize this panel discussion. So in the next 10 minutes, I will try to explain which is the main message we wanted to express, to transmit with our project Humanity, which means uninterrupted humanity. But before telling you this message, I want to start with a brief explanation of the logic of the Balkan route, the perspective of the Balkan route, which is a perspective of externalization of borders, which is often taken by international organizations, European countries, and non-European countries. It is a perspective of externalization of border, and the core of this perspective is to force people on the move to stay in places which are close to their countries of origin. And the goal of this perspective is to force and to keep people on the move from reaching European countries. So this is the goal of this perspective. And this perspective can be found in several agreements that European countries and non-European countries and international organizations signed in the last years. For example, in 2016, when a group of European countries and decided to finance, to sponsor 6 billion euro to Turkey with the aim of keeping the people from reaching the Greek islands. Or another example is the agreement between the Italian authorities and the Libyan authorities signed in 2017 with the aim of not allowing the people on the boats coming from the northern coast of Africa to reach European countries through the Balkan, through the Mediterranean Sea. Or another example is the legislations regarding the use of artificial intelligence at EU borders, which basically allow the use of artificial intelligence technologies and high-tech instruments, devices, in order to monitor the human mobility and then to push back the people. So this is the logic, a logic of externalization of border and violent pushback. And it is a perspective who implies the violation of the non-refoulement principle, and it implies also the violation of the right to asylum. So this is the context in which we began our journey. We began our journey in September 2019, trying to follow the path that the people on the move themselves take. So we started from Turkey, from Gaziantep, which is a city close to the border with Syria. Then we moved to Greece, the Greek islands. Then we moved to North Macedonia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, and finally Italy. And in the photos you see around you, you can find, or in the photo you can also find a book we published in January 2021. You can find the faces of the people on the move we met during our journey. And in all the countries, we met people on the move who told us about this perspective of externalization of borders, of violent pushbacks. But the point is that with their choice not to stop in front of barbed wire, in front of violent police, they testify that there is a right to life that goes beyond all these obstacles. They say with their choice not to stop, that the right to free movement must be a universal right and not a privilege of those few who have a sufficiently powerful passport, like me, for example. And with our project, we wanted to amplify the voice of these people on the move that day by day decide not to stop and not to accept the perspective I was mentioning before. One of these people is Shuaib. You can see his face in one of the photos around you, and also in the book if you have. And we met him in Velechevo, which is a small city in the center of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I will let you hear his voice. I think you have the record, the audio. Yes, and we met him there. Just a little introduction. He was 30 years old when we met him there. He left his country 3 years before. He is from Pakistan, and he wanted to reach his uncles in Germany. And he told us what is the game. Probably you know that the action of crossing the border, especially in the Balkan route, is called the game. It's a paradoxical way to call this action a game, because at the stake is their life. But as you will hear from Shuaib, he told us that the game in Asia is called the donkey, like the animal, because in Asia, donkey is an animal with a no-sense meaning, and this no-sense logic is the logic of the game. Because you don't know if you will succeed or you will not succeed, but at the stake is your life. So, okay, I will let you hear Shoaib's voice, and then we will continue. Thank you.
The name is donkey. In Asia, you see donkey have no sense, nonsense animal. In Asia, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan, people speak donkey. When people come into Turkey, Greece, and European country, he changed the name game. No donkey, new name is game. Really, this is a nonsense journey. People not know about life and death. Like a blind people travel. When I travel, he cannot know next is a road or a barrier. He cannot know, but he travel. This game donkey, same as a blind people travel.
Okay, I also want to mention another person we met along the route that you can also see in the photos around you, which is Zahida. We met her in Velika Kladuša, and she is a teacher in Velika Kladuša. Velika Kladuša is a small city in Bosnia and Herzegovina, close to the border with Croatia. So because of this geographical position, a lot of people on the move, they want to try the game, so they want to try to cross the border with Croatia, lives here for several days or weeks or also years, depending on if they are lucky or not. So we met Zahida here. She is from Bosnia and Herzegovina, from Velika Kladuša, and since the beginning of the Balkan route, she decided to assist the people on the move, giving them clothes, giving them food necessary for continue their journey. So yeah, just to mention two people you can see in the photos around you, and they are just two examples, two faces. And with our exposition, with our book, with our speeches, we always want to give space to this logic, the logic of Shuaib, the logic of Zahida, but the logic of all the people on the move, and the logic of the people who operate along the route in order to assist the people on the move, like Lorena Gianandrea and Linea d'Ombra in Trieste. And yes, it is the logic of Shuaib and Zahida is a logic that is against the logic of externalization of border. Because as I told you, the logic of the people on the move that choose not to stop in front of all the obstacles is a logic that affirms that the right to free movement must be a universal right and not a privilege of few. And the logic of Zahida and the logic of those all the people who choose to assist and to risk their habits in order to help the people on the move is a logic of care against the logic of violence and pushbacks that is often is a part of the logic of externalization of border I was mentioning before. So the message we want to pass through the humanitarian interrota to uninterrupted humanity is that we want to give a narrative space to those people who try to change the rules of the game. Thank you.
Reflection on his practice. Shall we speak to, yeah, okay, all right. So until we resolve, hopefully, the problems, let us move to Gian Andrea Franchi, who is a former teacher, Elena Fornasir, who is a former psychotherapist, and who together in 2019 founded Linea d'Ombra, an organization that helps refugees in Trieste, where they daily do a lot of good at the central square of the city. Whenever you're ready, you can start.
Potete cominciare, ci sarà Lorenzo qua che tradurrà per voi.
Sì, quindi voi parlate, io traduco. Quindi voi parlate e io poi vi traduco sopra.
Va bene.
Abbiamo mandato anche delle immagini. Abbiamo mandato anche delle immagini da far scorrere lo sfondo.
Adesso lo apro.
Comunque intanto che apre puoi iniziare, Andrea.
Sì. Quindi noi siamo già stati presentati come due rappresentanti dell'associazione Linea d'Ombra che dall'inverno 2019-2020 si occupa di accogliere, di socializzare con i migranti che arrivano dalla rotta balcanica, e la città di Trieste, che come noto è praticamente sdraiata sul confine, e di permettere a loro di continuare il viaggio, perché con questo voglio sottolineare, noi ci occupiamo dei migranti che non vogliono fare domanda di accoglienza in questo paese, cioè nell'Italia, migranti che non vogliono presentarsi alle autorità e che vogliono andare dove vogliono andare. Noi riteniamo che essi siano portatori di un diritto assolutamente fondamentale, anche se lo Stato non lo riconosce e anzi aggiungerei non può riconoscerlo perché verrebbe a negare la caratteristica fondamentale dello Stato, cioè una delle caratteristiche fondamentali dello Stato, cioè il controllo dei confini.
Possiamo tradurre quello che ha detto fino ad ora?
Posso tradurre ora? Scusate.
Cioè mi
Posso
fermo
tradurre?
e traduci?
Sì, è meglio perché sennò capisce. Mi perdo un
Allora
po'.
fammi un segno e quando vuoi interrompo poi.
Certo. So Gian Andrea and Lorena started a project, so to say, called Linea d'Ombra in 2019, which was active until 2020, and was mainly concerned with, well, in a sense, welcoming, well, refugees traveling from the Balkan route in Trieste, which is a city at the border between, well, Italy and Slovenia, but in a sense, the whole Balkan region. But nevertheless, what they focus on is not like welcoming these people in the sense of helping them settling in Italy, but rather enabling them to continue their journey despite the legal constrictions they might face while entering Italy. And this goes back to the idea that regardless of what national or whatever kind of regulation exists, there's an untouchable right for people, may them be migrants or just travelers, to well, to move in a sense. And this is what then guides Linea d'Ombra and their project. Prego.
E quindi noi siamo tutti i giorni in piazza, nel pomeriggio, qualche volta anche la mattina, ad accogliere appunto queste persone che arrivano in condizioni, come è ovvio, come è facile presupporre, di mera sopravvivenza, quindi corpi feriti dal cammino e soprattutto dai comportamenti delle polizie attraverso i cui confini passano, in particolare la polizia croata, come è noto, il suo comportamento efferato che giunge persino alla tortura, quindi curiamo questi corpi feriti mettendoli in grado appunto di continuare il viaggio, diamo loro da mangiare, forniamo loro abiti, tutto quel che possiamo. Purtroppo non abbiamo la possibilità di offrire loro un... fermo?
Sì, grazie. So, then what they do is that each morning they go to a square in Trieste, ready to, well, in a sense, help people coming from, again, the Balkan route, especially as the conditions of these travelers are never good, and this goes back to the hunger they face, and, well, the toughness of traveling, and especially the, well, physical, mostly, but also, well, emotional damage that is derived mostly by, well, the actions that are carried out by, well, police at the borders of different countries, and especially the Croatian one, which is, well, notorious for its harshness. So then again, yeah, that's how Linea d'Ombra starts acting, just by going to the square and yeah, helping people, I guess, in the most practical, yeah, and yeah, less pretentious way possible. Prego.
Ma non si tratta di solo questo, questo tipo di aiuti sono indispensabili perché possano continuare il viaggio, ma l'essenza è la costruzione di un incontro, di una dimensione di socialità con queste persone, perché proprio questa riconosce il loro diritto di andare dove vogliono. In questo senso la piazza della stazione di Trieste, che si chiama ironicamente Piazza Libertà e che noi abbiamo ribattezzato come Piazza del Mondo, è e vuole essere un luogo di incontro, un luogo di socializzazione complessiva. Arrivano persone da fuori, anche dall'estero, a conoscerci, a incontrare queste persone, e quindi noi vogliamo fare di questa piazza un luogo europeo, un luogo internazionale di incontro fra le persone, al di là delle differenze culturali, delle differenze statuali, e questo crediamo sia un gesto politico fondamentale in questo momento così drammatico in cui sembra che la guerra e la violenza del mercato siano gli unici orizzonti aperti agli esseri umani, diciamo.
Grazie, adesso traduciamo.
Grazie. But then again, it's not just about the practical side of it, and indeed this square in which, well, what I describe takes place is called Piazza Libertà, which means, yeah, Freedom Square, and this kind of exemplifies what's the bigger aim of Linea d'Ombra, which is to foster encounter, and it might be a social encounter or a cultural one, but in the sense, then again, this goes even beyond encounter itself, and it's about facilitating a socialization, well, between locals in this case, but then again, migrants coming from east, and this wants also to be some sort of a political act, a response to, well, the dominant logic that connote, well, I guess that area of Italy, but maybe even, well, society as a broader scale, and we're talking about the marketization of relationships, and yeah, maybe their commodification. So then again, there's the practical side to it, but then even a broader, I don't guess, ethical sense on what, yeah, Linea d'Ombra does. Prego.
Per questo noi siamo in rapporto con altri attivisti sia in Bosnia, dove ci siamo recati 27 volte complessivamente, che in altre città d'Italia e anche d'Europa. E il nostro scopo è appunto di creare una rete europea di solidarietà che contrasti le politiche razziste come dire, basate sull'economia come valore assoluto dell'Unione Europea. Quindi questo è un gesto politico che riteniamo fondamentale e che speriamo possa, per quel che riguarda le nostre forze, continuerà finché possiamo. Ci rivolgiamo quindi a tutti gli attivisti, i cittadini europei, perché facciano qualcosa di simile a quello che facciamo noi, perché l'accoglienza dei migranti, per quel che ci riguarda il Medio Oriente, ma c'è anche l'Africa dove la situazione è ancora peggiore, sia un gesto fondamentale di liberazione e di scelta politica in Europa.
Sì, vi interrompo così traduco. And another thing that Linea d'Ombra dedicates itself to is the creation of a network within Italy, but also beyond those borders. And for instance, they've been traveling to Bosnia for 27 times. And
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we'll get to you after the speakers.
And yes, going back to what I was saying.
Hello?
Hello, Abdul, can you hear us?
Yeah, now it's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're in the middle of the previous talk. After that, we'll come to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, just I want to make sure if I'm connected. Okay, perfect.
Great.
So then again, there's this intention of creating a network which also wants to be a response to the way, well, European states, but also the European Union is dealing with flows of migrants, and in the sense that what has been done so far has been the response to the ethics of the market, economic ethics, and what Linea d'Ombra believes is that it's needed to transcend that and go beyond it to have a more, I guess, inclusionary approach to people coming, and from the Middle East, because that's what Linea d'Ombra is mainly concerned about, but of course even from Africa and from different parts of the globe.
Continuiamo adesso?
Sì, certo.
Sì. Allora, io sono Lorena, vi ringrazio per averci invitato, ringrazio Davide, ringrazio Marta, che tra l'altro sono due bellissime persone. Davide è venuto nella nostra piazza del mondo e ci ha portato il sole, la sua competenza, la sua bellezza e la bellezza anche della sua associazione. Lo voglio ringraziare molto, sia lui e anche Marta, che ricordo ci aveva invitato in varie situazioni, per cui grazie per questo invito. Se volete tradurre, poi aggiungo due parole.
Certo. Lorena, thanks is Marta for inviting her here, but also Davide for his active participation in the square in Trieste. And prego, può andare.
Ecco, ok. Allora, io mi occupo della cura e della cura dei piedi. Come associazione Linea d'Ombra riusciamo, grazie a tante donazioni, riusciamo ad assistere i migranti che arrivano dalla rotta balcanica, dando loro vestiti, scarpe, cibo. Compriamo tantissimo cibo per loro e curiamo le ferite dei piedi che sono disastrose, perché questi ragazzi camminano 15, 17, 20 giorni nei boschi con le condizioni che possono essere le peggiori, e soprattutto gli ultimi giorni arrivano affamati perché non possono scendere in nessun villaggio a comprare neanche una bottiglia d'acqua, in quanto rischiano di essere immediatamente presi dalla polizia e denunciati.
Traduco fino a qui. So what Lorena does is, well, mainly, let's say, taking care of migrants and especially of their feet. And this is because they arrive to Trieste after having walked for maybe 20 days straight. And it's not an easy walk, but rather it's about walking in forests or, well, yeah, hostile environments with no possibility of maybe going down to, I don't know, a town or a center to buy food or water, because clearly there's the fear of being caught by the police and maybe sent somewhere. So people get to Trieste in rather, yeah, disastrous physical condition, and so there is a need to take care of their feet as well as of their clothing and, yeah, their overall wellness. And yeah, maybe I can translate the sentence. So like what you can see there in the slide says this. So first come the flies, which are the ones tormenting the wounds, and they focus on the clogs of blood, which is mixed with mud, which are the sign and the testimony of the walks in the woods that precede the arrival in Trieste.
I ragazzi che arrivano dalla rotta balcanica sono dei sopravvissuti alla morte, sopravvissuti alla fame, sopravvissuti alle torture. E voglio ricordare che fino all'anno scorso c'erano anche le deportazioni dalla città di Trieste. La polizia deportava chi era riuscito ad arrivare in salvezza, prendeva questi ragazzi e li deportava in Slovenia, la Slovenia li deportava in Croazia e la Croazia, dopo averli maltrattati, derubati di tutto, li riportava all'inferno, cioè in Bosnia. Anche oggi stanno arrivando dei ragazzi che erano stati deportati ancora un anno fa e che non erano più riusciti a riprendersi fisicamente, mentalmente, perché ogni respingimento è un trauma e del trauma lungo la rotta balcanica non si parla. Bisognerebbe tenere un seminario solo per parlare di che cosa subiscono questi ragazzi, dei traumi con cui arrivano e anche della loro capacità di resilienza, delle loro grandi risorse ad affrontare le terribili violenze e sofferenze che hanno subito.
So yeah, the people that arrived to Trieste are essentially survivors. They're survivors of the route they took in the Balkans, and they're survivors in the sense that, well, as you saw, they arrive in rather precarious conditions, so to say. And what is more is that up until a year ago, those people that made it to the north of Italy would get deported by Italian police. They would get sent back to Slovenia, and there then Slovenian police would send them back to Croatia, where again the police forces are rather harsh with regards to how they treat migrants, and from there on they would be sent back to, well, hell, as Lorena defined it, which is essentially the camps in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And what she adds is that we would need an entire seminar just covering the issues of traumas and of the emotional as well as physical toll that these people need to take on themselves, but to also acknowledge the resilience and the strength that they carry with them, and that maybe pushes them to, well, yeah, try again this path after having been sent back once or even more.
Ecco, aggiungo, e così posso anche concludere, che l'assistenza che noi diamo nella piazza del mondo è un gesto politico, nel senso che occuparsi del bene degli altri, occuparsi della salute degli altri, della salute di questi ragazzi che sono resi dei fantasmi, di cui nessuno si occupa perché sono illegali, questo è politica, questo è il bene della comunità, e attorno a questa pratica della cura, che è una pratica politica, c'è una bellissima solidarietà che ci proviene da ragazzi speciali come voi, ci proviene da tutto il mondo della solidarietà, e non sappiamo fino a quando riusciremo a continuare, ma sicuramente la testimonianza di quello che accade ai confini di terra può creare coscienza attorno a questa tragedia del nostro tempo.
So, to conclude, well, Lorena wants to reiterate what they do in the square is more than everything a political act, and it's a political act in which there is the willingness to give some right to people that are considered to be illegal, but then there are escaping maybe from tragedies. And together with that, there is the desire to foster a sense of solidarity around these people, but even, again, beyond that little square. And the hope is that everything that is happening and the narration of these tragedies can stimulate the creation of a consciousness, maybe an individual one, but also a communal one, around these tragedies themselves, you know, in order to understand what these people are going through, giving them a voice, and also maybe learning from these tragedies themselves.
Va bene, grazie, io avrei terminato. Grazie per la vostra attenzione. Che bel volto che ha Marta Sedona, bellissima.
All right, we're moving on with Chale Guaramut, who is Executive Director at the Hague Peace Projects, and he will explain to us the difficulties that activist refugees face in the EU as they're going through their integration process.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here. It's amazing for me to be able to take part in events like this. Thank you, Marta, for helping us organize this. And I really wanted to take part in this event as part of the Hague Peace Projects because most of our work goes into supporting activists. We believe in grassroots change, and we have been working on this since 2014. I came to the Netherlands 3 years ago. And in that time, I've been able to experience a lot of what it is to be a grassroots activist and how difficult it is to work with the system and to work against the system at the same time. In the case of the people that we work with, a lot of them happen to be refugees. They happen to be activists that are in exile. Most countries, when things are going well, there is not a lot of need for activism. So activism is really concentrated on certain topics that are, let's say, of interest for everyone. But then when the countries start going down, then the amount of activists starts increasing. The amount of people that is unhappy with something that is going on and that want to make a change start to take a stand and start to coordinate themselves. And this is, although this is, it's rough that it happens this way, the fact that now we have these people that want to make a change is an amazing thing. And when it comes to the integration process, not only here in the Netherlands, but like EU widely, is something that is really not taken into consideration, that these people come from these places and have this knowledge, but rather you need to go through an economical integration process in the countries, which is, it's something that serves the system in the way that it is. But it's something that if we think on the long run on what we want as the people that are going to be living in this planet, like what is the change that we want to make? This is really where we see that everyone that is working towards something needs to have all the help they can get. And I really wanted to go back to a little bit that was said before regarding, you know, the power of the passports. And here, it has been really nice to experience what it is to have an European passport, because you can travel without any borders. It's really easy, super powerful. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it wasn't always this way. So I come from Nicaragua, which is in Central America, and I came with a Nicaraguan passport. And yes, it was kind of like a headache to go through everything. I had to go through the refugee process, which I would not recommend to anyone if you can skip it. It's a super rough process, honestly. But the thing is that at the end of the day, if I get to be here speaking to you right now, like if this is the opportunity that I get after going through like such of this rough process, what I would really like to leave with you is really a handful of things. And the first one is that when we think about solving issues like this, we have to take the actions and the power in our hands. This is something that the budget for integration for the EU for refugees for the next, I think, 6 years is 9 billion euros. Most refugees have left because of armed conflicts, and now in the future because of environmental issues. Germany just doubled its military budget from 50 billion to 100 billion for 1 year. Right? So where are we going with this? Like, of course, we can make change, and we need to learn to really fight all the battles. I'm currently, for example, engaged the Hague Peace Project is engaged in supporting the efforts towards bringing the ecocide into the jurisdiction of the ICC. It's not a game solver, but it could be a game changer. And it's not the only way to deal with the environmental issues. Really, you can take action. You can go plant a tree. You need a permit, get the permit. Get things done, organize. There is so much more power that this generation has compared to like any other generation by your age. In the case of the ecocide, most things are actually being launched by people that is in their 30s. This is awesome. This is people that have been like right out of university, started entering somewhere, started working on something, and is getting something that is major done. That the ICC is still debating whether nature should be protected in this sense or not. And this is clear for this generation. And the things that we can contribute when it comes to the refugees is the helping hands. I wouldn't have been able to be here talking to you today if it wasn't because of all the people that really helped me out when I didn't have an euro in my pocket to buy like a breakfast, when I didn't have a place to stay, when I didn't have, for example, like winter clothes and things like that. When I came to the Netherlands, I remember like the guy in the asylum camp looked at me and he's like, that's a pretty cute jacket, but that's not gonna get you through the winter here. And that was really, it's an experience that I had to live. And really, it is the people that you see every day. It is the people that come in contact with you. It is now I have friends in places like this, awesome friends that have really made a difference. And what I really want to leave to you is that, of course, there is a system that you have to contribute to. Like it's a little bit kind of like your duty as a human to contribute to this system so that the system works, so that these things like, okay, we have like 1 billion euros for this like environmental campaign for the EU. Those are nice numbers, but like, does this really make sense with the rest of the budget? The information is not easily available. You have to look a little bit for it, but you can get to it. So what's important for me personally, talking to you today, is to leave you that even when things can get tough during the way, if there's something that you really want to do, you can do it. You can really organize with your friends, work on common axis of work, and you know, some things may not work at all. Some things may work halfway. Either way, progress is progress. And I think I want to end with this. And this is our contact information. If you want to have a coffee someday and talk about some of these things, we're more than open. We're a fully volunteer organization of about 50 people. And I'm not the only one that you can have a coffee with. So it's a lot of amazing people there. We're in the center of The Hague as well. And we do things with Leiden University every now and then whenever it's possible, because we truly believe that it's a place that offers this ability to connect with people from other countries, to learn from other cultures, to experiment things through the eyes of someone else. And we honestly believe that this is super powerful. And I hope you take advantage of this amazing privilege as well. And thank you.
Thank you, Chale. It was wonderful to have you in person. Tell us about this. We'll come back in the discussion. Okay, so I've already introduced Abdul. Abdul, can you hear us? Just to remind everyone.
Sorry to my internet and.
No problem. I don't know whether you are able to. Okay, great. We can see you as well now as well. So you're going to tell us about your experience going through the Balkan route and your practice as a photographer. Is that right?
Yeah. So thank you guys here for having me and for organizing this. And I apologize for being late. And wow, it's very strong pictures and I saw, and it reminded me my journey, and I did the same journey through Balkans. I live with Martha. We say I'm gonna talking about my story. When war started in Afghanistan, my mom, she was pregnant and she had to leave Afghanistan, and she's giving me birth in the way. And I grew up in Pakistan in a refugee camp. And when I was in Pakistan, it was not easy to live as a refugees with other kids. Always people will tell us when you go to your country and when. But then I will come to home and I tell my mom, like, say, okay, when are we gonna go to our country? Because people tell me when we go. And she was telling us the story about Afghanistan, and she said, yeah, a story about the mountains, gardens. I was so excited to hear all the story about Afghanistan and go back to Afghanistan. And one day, my family, they moved back to Afghanistan, and I lived in Afghanistan 9 years. And when I was in Afghanistan working with the NATO's, I got shot 3 times, and one time in my arm, in my back, in my legs. And then it was not a safe place, and I decided to leave Afghanistan. I came to Pakistan, and from Pakistan I came to Iran. When I came to Iran, and I catch by police, and they bring me to prison. I was 1 month in prison, and we didn't know like what's wrong. And as soon as the police see and people see, they was calling the police and police running behind us. I went to prison for 1 month, and after 1 month they deport us back to Afghanistan. And I didn't knew like how difficult is the journey before I left. Some people told me it's very difficult, but when you more understand, when you experience yourself. And second time when I leave Afghanistan, I knew it was so difficult what I'm going through. Then I came to, again, the next time I came directly to Iran, not by Pakistan, and it was not my choice, it was the choice of smuggler, because they're the people who organizing the trip. And we came to Iran, and I decided, okay, I will never, because stop to police catch me before. When I was coming, the smuggler say, when police say stop, you all have to stop, otherwise they're going to shoot you. And when I see they was very brutal and they beat me a lot and beat other people, and it was very difficult in prison, I decided I'm never going to stop. And then I came to, in Iran, it was, we were lucky we didn't caught by police. We came to Turkey. It's always difficult and more detail. And then from Turkey, I try many times to cross the border. I went to Bulgaria, and when I went to Bulgaria, each time when we trying to cross, we was caught by police, and they take our backpacks, clothes, shoes, and beating a lot. And sometimes they bring the dogs, and they broke my arm, which is which still not very straight. Maybe I don't know if you can see. Is not straight. I didn't bring to the doctor because there was no doctor. I was 4 months in Bulgaria, 4 months in Bulgaria, and from there, trying to cross, going to Serbia. It was difficult to go, like, it was cold, and each time they catch you, they beat you, and then they bring you to a detention center for 4 days and 5 days. You only eat what you have, and sometimes they take the foods, and also they're using very bad words and torturing a lot. And then from there, and I came to Serbia. When I came to Serbia, I was stay 1 year in Serbia, and there was no one to document the situation. And I decided to start photography, and I start with the phone, and each day I will post what's going on and what's happening. And of course, it was very scary. And if they catch you with the phone or with the camera when you're taking pictures, it can create big problems. Because before me, and I saw the pictures of one Syrian boy, he was in the camp, and the volunteering, they say, oh, justice to, I don't remember his name, Ahmed or Mahmoud or whatever, to him. And I asked what's happened to him, and they say, Hungary, the police was beating people, and one day he decided to document this, and he had the microphone to record the sound, because always police, they deny, they say, no, we don't do this, they don't do, they take the phone, they broke the memory card, they don't want to people know to prove. And the humanity is only come when the people can see, but behind the camera it's different. And then since they told me his story, they say he was in prison because of this. After this, I very scared. I say, okay, I really want to photograph and document. It's so important, and I'm gonna still tell the story and show to the world what's happening. But in same time, it was very scary to me, and but as I knew is important, I was continue doing this. But living in Serbia, it was very difficult, like cold, -15, and from there I tried to cross by lorry. There's not the sea, but I went by a small boat to cross the river, and I tried by walking, and it was not working. Since 1 year I tried very hard, it was not working. And one time I find the passport, and I tried to go by airport. When I went to by airport, the police catch me and they bring me to the court. When they bring me to the court, and the judge, he say, you have to leave Serbia in 5 days. If you don't leave Serbia in 5 days, you will go to prison for 4 or 3 years. And I tell police, like the judge, I say, how I can leave Serbia? When I leave Serbia, the police catch me. They bring me back to the camps. If the police didn't bring me to the court, I will be already not in Serbia anymore. Now I will be in Europe. It's not make any sense. You say to me, you leave and then you catch me. How I can leave? When I leave, you don't want me to leave. You bring me back here. How I can? And And I show some pictures. I say, see, this is the situation, how we live here, and we're not here to stay because we want to leave. Like, we leave. He didn't want to hear, he didn't want to talk, and no, he didn't have any things to justify himself. Like, he knew it's not make any sense. He said, okay, don't speak, either you leave. I said, if you judge like how it's not fair what you say. So if you don't leave, you go to prison, you have to choose. And then I was very scared. I said, maybe I'm going to prison because I tried since 1 year and I'm not able to leave because I tried this. But luckily, one volunteer, he helped me to cross, and I arrived to France. When I arrived to France, and each day I was thinking more about my journey and other people who took the same journey, or who's gonna take the same journey after me. And I knew it's very unfair and it's so difficult. It was always the question, I don't know what I can do to these people. And I knew what they're going through, like how difficult when you leave your home, how difficult when you leave your family, when you leave your dreams, you leave your friends, leave your country, live under the water. It was always the thinking what I can do to these people, and it should not happen. And then I continue photographing, and I was hoping hopefully something will change with this, but I'm doing this since 5 years and a half and nothing changed. But it's always big question to me. I say, okay, if I do it, maybe it's gonna change something, I don't know what, but if I not do it, nothing will change. I have to do something and do something different. Before, when I was going to the camps and photograph people, I had a lot of hope to the photos, and I was more believed than I believe now. And I was always say, okay, we're talking to people, I tell you our story, we make people understanding, we're hoping something will change. But now if I go, there's less hope because I'm doing since years, things not changing, and it's not getting better, the situation is getting worse always. And now when I go, like, I just tell them what I believe, and I said to them, like, they ask me why you think the photograph is important or why you want to photograph, and I say, okay, I'm hoping something will change, but I have very little hope, but I don't know what to do, like what's going on, and I can fight about it. And I know I've been in through same journey. My family, my brother was in the way, and I knew other people, like member of my family, they're gonna live in people like is not safe there. So I decided to continue photograph, and I'm photographing, and now in Calais, which is a more easy place to me to go because I'm working. Then I come back to my work. I work 1 week in month, and then most of my time and I spend in Calais to tell their story in photograph. And actually, it's very sad. There's some pictures that I sent to Martha, and I said before, they're one Kurdish family. I photographed them a few months ago. When I photographed them, this one woman, she was alone without her husband. It's more difficult to the children in Oman to be alone. And I sit with them, and I knew she's very brave, and I asked her, I said, hey, you look like my mom. Since how long you here? And she said, oh, I'm very tired. Last night we tried to cross the border, but our boat was sank when we sit in the boat, and now I'm very tired. If you come next time, I'm gonna speak to you. And I tell her, okay, I'm gonna come in next week, and we're gonna speak about everything. And I talked to his children, and his children was very excited and happy. They say, oh, we want to go to UK. The one he say, when I arrive to UK, I want to be a barber. And her sister, she say, oh, I want to be art teacher when I arrive to UK. And I photographed them, and the one he told me, like, say, oh, he asked this other journalist, say, there's Kurdish food in UK. They was from Kurdistan. And he said, yeah, there's many Kurdish restaurant. If you came to UK, I'm going to take you to Kurdish restaurant. The kids, they was so excited. They think they're already in the UK. So then it was getting dark, and I leave them, and I tell them, okay, I'm going to come next week. We're going to speak more. And after 1 week, I get the news that the people who you see inside the pictures, they was drowned in the sea. And this kid who's in the picture, he was calling the British Coast Guard to please save us, protect us. our boat is gonna sink, and they call French Coast Guard. They say no, you should call English. In English, they should call French, and they die in the middle. Sorry. Yeah, as I don't know, like it's we have more time or no? If there's any questions.
Abdul, this intervention, can you hear me? This intervention was really riveting, and we would need much more time to hear it properly. There will be definitely time, but I know you wanted to have a discussion now. If there is one thing that someone would like directly to ask Abdul now, we can do that. Just one thing. And then we'll come back to it during the discussion. But we're deeply thankful for your...
This kids actually, you see the one who has chips, and they came back from the scene. They tried to cross, and he proposed me, say, oh, eat the chips, and I take small piece. And after he's give me more, I said, but you have nothing to eat tonight. He said, no, my mother, she's gonna find me food. He shared the food from this. Actually, when I look to this picture, is very, very sad, and they could save them, but they die very like middle in Europe.
Wow, extraordinary. We really wish you were here with us, and we could stop and discuss much more closely. Is there something for now? Oh, we're really thankful. Let's give a round of applause. If you stay with us, we'll come back in the discussion, okay? And talk
okay,
further.
Here.
Yeah. So we're continuing with Serena Zuanazzi, who is also going to tell us about the Balkan route and about the work she does as a coordinator at One Bridge to Idomeni Onlus project. The floor is yours, Serena.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, right?
Right. So I want to thank you for the possibility to talk, and also I want to thank you, the other guests, because it was really interesting. It's always interesting to listen to other experiences, and the Abdul's one was really strong. So I'm Serena, and I'm the coordinator of the Bosnia and Herzegovina project here for One Bridge to Idomeni. I will just do a brief introduction to One Bridge. We are a small organization from Verona, and we like to say that our association started with a tent. And for us, it's really important, this story, because we were a group of friends that, after reading and hearing about the situation in Idomeni, we decided to try to understand better the situation and to act. So we started with small trips to Idomeni from Verona. Normally it was like we were doing trips of one weekend, trying to bring some material like tents and food close to Idomeni, that is a small city at the border with Macedonia, where a lot of people, more or less 10,000 people, were stuck in the border after, as was said before by Davida, because of the closure of the borders. And here we decided to take two directions. One was the action direction, where we were bringing support to people that is stuck on the Balkan route. But in the other way, we decided to come back to Verona and try to explain and to testify the situation. And here I would like to say to Abdul that is really important, and also to Davide, like the work that you are doing, because for us, like, to explain and to show to people how is the situation through through photographies is super important. And we are trying to do this in all our projects. Both in Verona, we are doing a lot of like paths in schools, but also in our projects in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in Greece, that I will explain you later. So I prepared a small explanation of the Balkan route, but actually almost everything was already said. So I would like just to explain a little bit after this. What does it mean to live, to be stuck in the Balkan route? I put just some photos of like the different camps where people live. And there are two different types of camp: the formal camps, like the reception centers. Maybe you know about them because there are a lot of news about them, both from Greece but also from Serbia and from Bosnia. Maybe you heard about the Lipa Camp. Actually, now I'm in Bihać, that is a city in the northwest of Bosnia and Herzegovina, that is really close to Velika Kladuša that Davide was mentioning before. And Lipa Camp is now the biggest camp in this region, but it is famous because of the fire that happened in December 2020, where after the same day of the closure of the camp, it was set on fire, and then with the money of the European Union was rebuilt. This camp is peculiar, but it presents a lot of common characteristics with other camps, because it's situated in a really far away spot in the middle of nothing. Is more or less 7 hours far from the first city, and this represents the idea to put people outside the city and outside the tourist areas. Like in this moment, Bihać is a quite touristic city, mostly for Arabic countries. And during spring, there is the so-called, it's more a term that like volunteers use, like the spring cleaning actions, where police does a lot of evictions. So they take people from squats and they bring them to the camp. I always, in the photos, you can see two types of squats. Squats, it's an English term, so probably, normally I have to explain what it means. But there are different kind of squats that can be factories, like the picture, the third picture, that are abandoned factories that are occupied by people, or jungles, like the second photo, the one up, that are like informal tents, like where people build their tents and they live there. These two pictures were taken in Velika Kladuša. The first one is the Bangladeshi forest, and the other one is the small factory for Velika Kladuša, and also abandoned houses, because in this area there are a lot of abandoned houses from the war, because we also have to remember that in Bosnia is still trying to heal from a really difficult situation and a really difficult war. And the other photo that you see about the camp is the camp of Corinthos, where we have a project, and I will explain you later a little bit more. So as Davide was saying, here I put just a brief explanation of what the game is. And I would like to focus more about pushbacks. Also, Abdul was talking about pushbacks, and this is something that here in Bihać and in Velika Kladuša we see almost every day. And there are different kind of pushbacks. That pushbacks are like the when people is found like in Croatia and they send back to the previous country, or as Lorena was saying, also from Italy, they can arrive. I met people that was sent back until Greece from Italy. And the pushbacks normally have like a sort of routine. And as Abdul was saying, normally the phones are destroyed, both because it's a way to testify also like the situation, but mostly because if you destroy a cell phone, it's really difficult for people to repeat the game, because normally the games, like mainly from here, they have to walk a lot, and they need something to understand where they are going, so like Google Maps. But they are super important to communicate with the families, because we have also to think that most of the people that is here is really young, and they are here alone, and they is the only way to communicate with their families and to say where they are, but also to communicate with the associations that are providing help and like distributions of food or clothes. And in the second picture, we can see shoes. As Lorena and Andrea were saying, feet are quite damaged during the trip, and having good shoes is a really important thing. And so another thing that is done during the pushbacks is to like take the shoes or the laces of the shoes. So it is a way to how can I say it in English? Like to retardare, to put, I don't know how to say it, like to make it late the next attempt of game, because it's difficult to find the right shoes, and walking with the wrong shoes can destroy the feet. So people have to wait to find new shoes. And this part is for the shoes, but they also take clothes, mostly during the winter. I met one family once that was just with like pants and like underwears without shoes. Also the children and the mothers. So there's also no division between single men and families and children and women. And another thing is the violence that is actually quite common. There are different types of violences. Here we can see a picture that was taken from always in Velika Kladuša, of this guy that was beaten with a stick. But there are also there is the use of guns, of tasers, of dogs. So there are different kinds of violences, and this is something that unfortunately is quite common. And as Abdul was saying, I'm sorry that there's written respingimento, but it was like testimony, that in the last year we were able to actually see these pushbacks, because before there were no testimonies of pushbacks. So it was really difficult to like prove them, because police, but also Frontex and like the state, and were denying the fact the pushbacks. So it was really difficult to to explain them and to fight them. So this was just a brief introduction to what we are doing as One Bridge to the Many. So we started, as I was saying before, doing small trips, but then we decided to put a structure in our association, and we started with small projects on the Balkan route. We started in Idomeni, but then we went to Belgrade and again to Greece and to Bosnia. But today we have different projects that have a really different approach. We are in Corinthos in Greece, where we opened a community center and a community school. We decided to go to Corinthos because in 2020 there was this new camp that opened in 2019 that was a temporary camp that was, it's funny to say temporary because they should be all temporary, but they are not at the end. We decided to go there because there were no services inside, like children were not able to go to school, and there was no recreational activities, but also the medical support was really bad, and also there was no legal support, and people had no place where to do some activities that we have to think that on the Balkan route people spend years waiting for papers or waiting to move to another country. So we decided to open this school and this community center where we have lessons, but also in the community center we have a free shop with a point system, and we are really proud of this project because it's a way to give dignity and also like a daily life routine to people, because in this way people is able to actually decide what to buy and what they need. That is different from distribution, because in Greece now there is no crisis, it's like a systematic situation. Camps are not anymore crisis, they are not dealing with a crisis because now it's more than 6 years that this situation is going on. So we decided to build some activities that want to face this waiting and this waste of time for people that is just there thinking about what they can do to go out from this situation. Recently, this winter, we also opened an info point and safe space in Athens, and we decided to open this because of the situation in Greece that is like a jungle of associations. So we decided to open this info point that is a place where people can come, tell the story, and from the needs that they are telling us, we try to connect them. We connect them with the other associations that are present in Athens to cut the time and also like the waste of time that people is spending to trying to understand like where they have to go to find this specific service. So we did this. And here in Bosnia, here in Bihać, we are supporting a local association that is Upokretu. And for us, this project is really important because we are trying to connect with and to help the local community. And this is important for us because Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country that has some difficulties, but at the same time is experiencing migration in two ways, because people from here migrate in Europe, but at the same time they have a big number of migrations in entrance. So what we are trying to do is to do some sensibilization campaigns, mostly in young people, to explain the situation, because most of the time people, like young people, young guys, are not aware of why people is migrating. And so for us, this part is really important. And then like to create a meeting point between local population, migrant population, and international population, because it's full of international volunteers, and it's nice to create this meeting point. And at the same time, we try to support the work of the other associations that do distributions that we, yes?
Can I interrupt you? We're coming to the end of the time.
Yeah, sure.
If that's okay. If you want to add a few final words regarding your mission, for example, or your collaborations, is there something you'd like to add at this stage?
No, I think it's everything, and that, I mean, I think that the message that we as association we want to say is that it's easy to take action, and that like for us that we were a small association of young people, we decided to take action and to take a position in this situation. And I think that all these small actions can really have an impact on the life of people here, but also like in our country of like in Italy. For me, it's really important to tell these actions that are going.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's been great to hear about your work, which is terribly important. Hopefully, again, as I say, people will stay and we can discuss in a little while. A round of applause. And next, we have Pia Revalo, who is a researcher at New Women Connectors and the Pan American and Caribbean Union for Human Rights. And we'll talk about abuse prevention with regard to refugees.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. And first of all, I would like to thank to Marta and everyone who is involved for this event taking place today. So, I will allow myself to make a little bit contrast between the reality regarding to the refugees and the commitment to the protection of human rights. As we all know, there are been great effort to multiply and universalize them with at least 27 instruments relative to human rights protection. But in the practice, we also know that there are really depth to the effective protection, and in this case we will focus on prevention. In the do you have the presentation? We will look a little bit about the numbers. In the you can. In 2012, it closed by 40 to 45.2 million people who has been forced to flee their house. They are divided between refugees, internal displaced, and asylum seekers. This is the number from 10 principal countries where are the origin of the refugees in 2012 and the principal receptors. But at the end of the 2019, we're almost 80 million. And right now, in the first month of this year, it reached to the 100 million of people. And the causes, the persecution, conflict, violence, and human rights violations. Yeah, and last May, the 22, the High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, pointed that this number is a call of attention to resolve and prevent the most destructive conflict and the end of persecution and address the underlying causes that force the innocent people to leave their house. So here we have in 30 seconds 16 years of period between 10 countries. Then you can see easily, but it's not 16 years. Then this is more or less what's going on. And we will look from another angle. And here will be divided into large blocks in prevention, let's say before and after. One type is looking at the country of origin of the refugees or potential refugees, based on the foreign policies and the review of the level of tolerance to the abuse of political mothers on the reserve of the state to deal with in own affairs and the political will to speak out when the state abuse is taking place. And in this line, with Filippo Grandi's statement, when assures that humanitarian aid is a palliative and is not a cure, to prevent or reverse this, the only answer is peace and stability, so that the innocent people are not forced to gamble between face the dangers or be as an exile. And the fundamental part of peace and stability is prevention, early listening and timely denunciation, as was demonstrated by the Honorable Professor Theo van Boven, with the case of the military dictatorship in Argentina in the 70s, when he's expressed the questionable position of the diplomatic silence that was inclined to the ineffectiveness of denunciation, and today we are seeing the result of this. And at this point, this is the Theo van Boven pictures in the military tribunals in Argentina. Then he discovered that more than 3,000 people has been killed at the moment. So listening and timely action is a key of it. And at this point, is it almost impossible to not mention the reality of my country? We are currently 7 million people displaced by the terrorism from the state. That in a way was expected, but no one was prepared. And the fact is that the migration waves are preceded by many indicators that I can show you clearly here. So 23 years later, we have the awakening of institutions on human rights guarantees in 2000. The violation of the rule of law in Venezuela, which is the political takeover of the Venezuelan Supreme Court of Justice. So we can see the wave number 1 between the 99 and 2002. Then over and over, we arrived to the 40.7 million people when you could see at the video in 2019, our flag jumped over. And the same situation is happening with the Nicaragua and also Iran. So how much is enough? Since I was, I think you can stop it. Since I was 11 years old, I began to be aware of what it was going on in my country. And a process it was denounced from the early days. And today, after 20 years, we have 2 processes open in the ICC for crimes against humanity. And it is precise what I was just showing you. Where are the different indicators that allow the early prevention? After 20 years, more concession must not be granted to the perpetrators than to their own victims, so who are part of the unwanted migration today. And I will share something very personal with you. 2019, February 22, while I was watching humanitarian aid concert, where the get burned some aid from the people of my country in the middle of one bridge between Venezuela and Colombia. My roommate was crying, watching how the people were killed in Nigeria, her country, the same day. So more or less, in every camp and refugee camp, you can face the reality of the decision has been taken from the last period of time. And for closed, we have projection. Yeah, so as today we have laboratories that allow us to project the climate change escalations. And there are also computer simulation tools, such as those that we saw for the COVID, and many others like they use for the galaxies, let's say. That can be the data can be taken from the policy models and systematization of experience to know even when to expect the refugee waves, avoid the crisis instead of react to them. And we can see the index from 2019, democracy. So as we saw in the frame, big frame, from where are the government expecting the refugees? For sure, there are several tools that can prevent the crisis in migration. So to the second block, to done my speak, is the second type. Then I call it after. So what do we do if out of the consequence in the neighbor of the international community, when the wave have not to be avoided? So we call avoid the re-victimization of asylum seekers and refugees in host countries. I took only two of them that they are related to some other voices that I've heard before. So one of them is avoid re-victimizing the people and help them to overcome through their state of vulnerability. And also select among the unwanted migration the skilled labor force and integrating them to the productive system and changing the migration status. Because there are many people who are facing the xenophobia and the issues around of being a refugee, so they don't want to, we don't want to be, name it or call it refugees, because with this name is a big package that coming, like I saw yesterday on the Twitter. Some people pretend to the refugees have to get certain kind of knowledge or wear some kind of clothes or express in a certain kind of way that they are not fair for everybody. So I was partially seeing there are some substantive problems that are linked to the proportionally. So there are long of your careers, maybe you will be the case that you have to decide to continue to apply the same formulas to obtain the same results, or dare to change them to reverse the numbers, being a grotesque behind the grotesque reality in each of the individual affected in a negative way by action or inaction. So these more or less are two big questions that probably you will face along your careers. So quiet diplomacy is more productive? Or what are the lines that separate the negotiables from non-negotiables relative to the human rights and the decisions? So this is the end of my presentation, and thank you. So the only thing I want to finish. So yeah, act today, thinking on the future. Thank you so much.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Pia. Before we turn to Q&A, just a very short intervention by Lina Borghardt. Lina, yeah, who helped organize the event, as I understand, and will introduce global human rights defense.
What? Pointing there? No. Hi, everyone. I also have a slide, but it's not essential. It doesn't really matter. So, yeah, as you know, Global Human Rights Defense, GHRD, is one of the hosts, but don't be fooled. I'm not the person behind this. This is Marta, so please, I want to have a round of applause for her because she did this and it's amazing. So I feel like you heard a lot today. You received a lot of information, a lot of important news, so I'm not going to bore you with a lot of information about the organization because it's a lot to take in. And this is not why we're here today. Global Human Rights Defense, just really quickly, is a human rights organization focusing on the protection of human rights and minority rights. Right now, particularly religious minorities. No, I don't have to go through all of this. It's all good, especially looking at the time. All good. So please talk to us if you want to help us, if you want to be part of our team, whatsoever. You can talk to the nice guy at our little table there. That's Domenico, one of my colleagues, or the people running around with cameras. That's our media team. That leaves me to say thanks, Marta. Thank you all for being here, and let's move on.
Brilliant, Lina. Yes, you said it. Such a full day. So many things we've heard, and that would really deserve a full day by themselves. We're very thankful to those of you that stayed to the end. Please feel free to ask questions. We can bring about a microphone. I don't know whether this is working. Can you? And if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. You can ask anyone present in person or online. Well, there's so many things we could start discussing. Marta, maybe since you been so involved, maybe you'd like to start the discussion, or well, there's a question there. Okay, so great. Yes.
I wanted to ask, I know that it's a huge question, but if it could be summed up, how do you suggest improving the human rights conditions in Venezuela? Does it require a system change? What is needed?
Can you please repeat it and speak louder?
How should we address the human rights state in Venezuela?
So there are many bodies relative to the human rights. So first, some of them are relative to the political civil rights. So first, we can look at the decisions that have been taken from the government, from the head of the government. Right now, there are one case open in the ICC, which is relative to the murders that has been taking place during the protest. A few days ago, it was the 5 years of, we remind one of the young guys who have been killed by them in a protest. They opened the chest. So there are many information out of here. And in the United Nations, right now, they have been sent a lot of people to investigate inside the country the violation and the human rights abuse that right now are going to the crimes against humanity. And so it's a matter of also political volunteer to denounce this, because as we saw, there are many. We have 23 years. I was 11 years old when the first government it was there. So I lived the whole process, and we never stop to raise our voices. So it's also a matter who want to listen. I don't know if I answer your question.
Absolutely, we're here to indeed listen and to raise awareness. I also would like to ask maybe Serena, this, and it came up also in Lorena's talk, but Serena, you actually present that very well, how abusive those processes of pushback are. And I think the amazing thing with the plight of the refugees is that, as you said, we have 100 million people at the moment around the world. It would be the most populous country in Europe, right, if it was a country. And yet somehow 99% of us, 99% of the time, we do not know what is taking place. And we cannot pretend not to know. That's the extraordinary thing. And but I understand completely all the processes of silencing and of occluding and preventing information. And I'm just wondering, what are the means in our disposal to show those pushbacks, which, as you say, are illegal. There's no legal ground for this practice. I mean, there's one thing which is violence and horror, and which it's another thing when even the law is directly broken, right? And I'm wondering, what can we do to expose those pushbacks, this practice?
So there is this network that is doing a quite big and useful job, that is Border Violence Monitoring Network. Is a network of associations that collect all the testimonies, like all the testimonies, I think, of pushbacks directly from people that are pushback. So I think that, and they publish reports every month, and they also publish books actually. And I think that like their work is really important, and it's what I try to do and what we are trying to do as association is to spread as much as we can these informations, and also information from other groups, other associations in Greece. So I think that through this network, it's a good way to get informed, and a real action. It's quite difficult because, as we said, they are trying to covering them. Also, there is this thing that really really affected me personally, because also Frontex is doing pushbacks, and Frontex is like the European army in this moment.
NGO doing the dirty job, right?
Actually, the thing that really affected me is that also public institutions are contributing in this pushback job, like the university, the Politecnico of Torino, and the Department of one of the department where there is geography, architecture, and urbanistic, etc. They won this grant to provide geographical data for Frontex. So is this big institution, like this big public institution that is almost like an NGO that is providing important data to Frontex to understand like the paths of for the game, and also like material, and it's not possible to see this material. And this affected me because it's like my professor of the university that now is doing this job, and for me it was like, okay, it's quite complicated. So also I think that going against these kind of things, like expressing the contrariety, sorry, my English now is going away. Like there are different types of actions that we can take against these pushbacks. Also, like volunteering for one of the associations that are on the ground is one thing, and like to talk a lot about this situation. I think that is rising because compared to some years ago now, like this pushback system is better.
Intensified.
Not.
Is it intensified? Is the system, you say, intensified, or?
The system in the last year is intensifying, but also because there are more testimonies. So before it was really difficult to see this system. Yeah. Now with all the work of the associations is well known. And also, as I was saying before, like the fact that there is material that is reporting what is happening. So
that's great to hear.
Yeah, I think it's
all right. Yes. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you again. I would like to complement your question or my answer. So there is a body named the Syracuse Principles that are relative to protect the political and civil rights, where is relative to the life that make the frame of the life, the exceptional circumstances. So there you can find in some articles who is the who is the person who can represent the government or the state in order to this type of exceptional circumstances. And of course the life is some rights that they cannot, or nobody is allowed to take over from any person in any circumstance. So this is one of them.
Thank you. Would someone else like to ask a question? You can also make a comment, or really anything you'd like. Any of the speakers?
Because one of the things that that was mentioned right now, with how to contribute, and when we're talking about the pushbacks as well, and what we can do about it. Honestly, the contributing with the volunteering is such an important aspect of the game. And one of the things is, at some point I had this crazy idea when I was back in my country, that the things were being taken care of by a regulatory body like the government and this and that, in the pursuit of the benefit of the people. And obviously, and at least in the case of Nicaragua, and like I would say in the vast majority of the planet, this is not the way that things are actually working. And this means that if you want to see a change, you will have to put the effort. And when it comes to NGOs, and for example, like the work that is being done here is completely underfunded in general. So, for example, to give you an idea of how underfunded this is, from the 100% of the European budget for peacekeeping and peace building. So we have the difference now, like the peace building part is everything that contributes towards these things actually being solved at some point. And the peacekeeping is let's just not go into war, basically. But the difference in the budget is we have about 99% being used for peacekeeping. This is crazy, no? And 1% being used for peace building. We might as well not have peace building whatsoever. And peacekeeping is basically military budget. It's a nicer name for this, but it's basically weapon spending. So all this effort that is being done, like in the case of the Balkan route, in the case of the organizations that are, let's say, investigating about this, documenting about this, normally these people are working with their nails in their spare time, and they're like making pizzas, delivering them, whatever it is, in the rest of the time to actually be able to pay the rent. So this is really where, of course, not always you will have the super technical skills to contribute in a specific part, but really any help is help. And it's not only a great way of actually, polishing your skill set, but it's also a great way to see what's going on, to really understand the world that you live in. Because one of the things that for me was so eye-opening when I came to The Hague, because I came to The Hague knocking on the doors of the ICC saying, is there anything we can do about the case of Nicaragua? And there is none, in the case of the ICC at least. After working 3 years here in The Hague, I realized that it's understandable that it's almost impossible to see the urgency that is happening in the rest of the world. Because here in The Hague, there is no urgency. Everything just works. There is basically no crime. It's super safe. It's super nice. It's super clean. So it's very difficult to see beyond that if you don't really force yourself to be in contact with the other 99% of the planet that is actually going down like the Titanic. So these are opportunities like this. However you can get them, really try to get them, because what I have, this is actually like the first long-term volunteer work that I've done, and honestly I have grown in these 3 years as a human being more than the rest of my life probably. And it really makes a difference also for if you're trying to do something and an extra pair of hands come when you need them. This is awesome. This is life-changing. This is like, yes, it's nice what you're doing. And if you can do that for someone and you can see their faces when you come, it's like, I'm gonna help you out with this, and you can see the relief in that, this is really worth something. So I do suggest you to try it. Now that it was mentioned, like a lot of these organizations, if you see anything, like anyone out there doing something that you would say like, okay, this is cool, these people are doing something cool. Most of the time you can even volunteer online, and to some extent, like even if you're not at that particular place. So I do encourage you to go that, and I wanted to add this contribution as well now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I have a friend in Athens who used to go every week or other week with his child to one of the refugee camps to kind of offer support, but he really wanted his child to be there and really connect with these people. And I think it's a matter of also acting as citizens. So we can act as individuals, we can volunteer, but we have to rear our citizens, and we have to act as citizens as well to choose our governments, to decide on our budgets, for example. These are really political decisions that we're called to make as citizens. There's something from Lina.
I just wanted to comment on what you said. I feel like I'm in front of the camera, because I have to agree. Sometimes I talk to students when we go to student congresses for global human rights defense, They ask us, what can we do? And sometimes it seems super overwhelming, but I have to agree with him. You saw a couple of organizations today, then if you can, like, follow them on social media, check out what they're doing, and then you can share something. And then the second thing is, what I always get asked at student congresses or student associations invite us to talk there or to have a conversation with them. And they're like, there's so many bad things happening in the world right now. How they get overwhelmed. And I think we all get overwhelmed sometimes because there's a lot of different issues right now that you could focus on. But I think what is important to say is that you will not be able to solve every one of these issues. You can pick one that is really your passion. And I think Marta did that with the Students for Palestine. They chose their one passion. There was no debate there. They wanted to highlight this issue and they made something happen. And this is going somewhere. This might not be on every single issue that we were talking about in the news right now, but this is one. And if you find that one, I think you can go very far, like he said, with volunteering. So yeah, that's what I wanted to comment.
Indeed, amen. Let's find our passion and do something about it. Marta, final words, because we're coming up to 3.
You talk, I'll do it. Okay. Okay. I wanted to thank all of you, also the ones of you who are online. Thank you so much. Truly, this was very important to me, and I think also for the people who were here to listen to everything you said. So,
wow.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it so much, and it made me really happy that you all showed up.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you once again. Final round of applause, everybody.
Can we all get a picture with the flowers? All the team together, yeah? That would be super nice.
I have to share my chocolate.
Maybe it's finished. Bye and thank you.